Okay, so we just finished kind of the start of the book on truth. And now where we're going to go, and I'm going to kind of, again, zoom kind of quickly to some of the places that I think are a little bit, not necessarily, I mean, I think they're pretty interesting. Sorry. There we go. And so where we go, section 4 here, chapter 4, is essentially, again, kind of continuing on with this theme that Frankfurt's starting, that says the truth is useful. It has utility, right? How is it that truth possesses this utility? What is the explanatory connection between the fact that they are true and the fact that they have so much practical value? Why are truths useful at all, right? The question, blah, blah, blah. The question is not very difficult to answer. At least it's easy enough to see how to begin answering it. When we are engaged in active life, when we attempt to plan and to manage our various practical affairs, we undertake to cope with reality. Okay? Some of the outcomes of our efforts, as we value those, blah, 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 will depend, at least in part, on the proprieties of real objects and events that we are dealing with. So again, this kind of very easy focus that, the truth is practical and it is useful because it helps us work through our lives. In other words, it makes it possible for us to at least up to a point, know our way around. Okay? Blah, blah, blah. Continuing on. Also, and then this is on page 58, 59, Frankfurt says that there's something about the fact that truth, right, helps us, allows us and encourages us to know about ourselves, self-knowledge. Okay? In efforts to conduct our lives successfully, however, a readiness to face disturbing facts about ourselves may be even more critical asset than competent understanding merely of what we are up against in the outside world. Without truth, either we have no opinion at all concerning how things are, or our opinion is wrong. One way or other, we do not know what kind of situation we're in, so we need to pay again. We don't know what's going on, either in the world around us or within ourselves. So again, we need to pay close attention to how things really are, okay? And that includes kind of who we are in the situation. Okay? Blah, blah, blah. Chapter 5, he connects the notion of truth with rationale, with rational ability. Essentially, he's taking an Aristotelian approach here. To be rational is fundamentally as a matter of being appropriate, responsive of reasons. Human beings are, by ancient definition, rational animals. That's Aristotle. So again, in our reason, and this is where it kind of connects here, through our ability to reason, we can determine, both Aristotle thinks this and both Frankfurt thinks this as well, through our ability to reason, we can determine what is true and what is false, right? Our rational faculties can help us determine, what is factual and what is non-factual. The notions of truth and faculty are indispensable, then, for imbuing the exercise of rationality with meaningful substance. They are indispensable even for understanding the very concept of rationality itself. Okay, if we have no respect for the distinction between true and false, again, we may as well kiss our much vaunted rationality goodbye. And this seems to connect here with his focus on bullshit, right? And where he made the claim, I think is a very provocative claim in on bullshit, that bullshit is more dangerous to the truth than lying is, for the fact that bullshit is this utter disregard for the truth, for the utter disregard for how things really are. So if it is the case that we don't care at all, we don't have any respect for the distinction between truth and falsity, then we're liable to fall into the realm of bullshit, right? And bullshitting is dangerous because it means we're not paying attention. It means we're not caring about how things really are. Okay. All right, section 6, chapter 6 here, blah, blah, blah. We start to move in to this kind of focus on lying, okay? And both chapter 6 and I believe it's chapter 7, I think are really, really kind of powerful in their ways of talking about lying. Okay, and this is where You can see that your assignment for this weekend's response paper is indeed focused on lying in connection with some of that, which we're talking about now. Page 69. If people were generally dishonest and untrustworthy, a very possibility of peaceful and productive social life would be threatened. Okay? This has moved some philosophers to insist with considerable vehemence that lying decisively undermines the cohesion of human society. I think there's maybe some truth there, some truth in the fact that lying is decisive, or decisive in the undermining of society. In other words, liars more than criminals of any sort deserve to be burned at the stake. This was Michel Montaigne, a poet, claiming that. And this is, again, a very dramatic focus on kind of the reprehension of one who lies. And this takes the form in a couple of ancient philosophers, but Montaigne and Kant, because Kant was a famous 18th century, 1700s philosopher that claimed that we have an unqualified duty to always tell the truth, because the fact is, if we lie all of the time, then we never know what the truth actually is, or even that the presupposition of lying showcases that the truth is hard to find. After all, the amount of lying and misrepresentation of all kinds that actually goes on in the world, of which the immeasurable flood of bullshit is in itself no more than a fractional part, is enormous. And yet productive social life manages to somehow continue the fact, right, that there is so much lying. But what we need to pay close attention to is, again, how lying exists kind of in reality. And what is the relationship between lying and truth? For this reason, social intercourse would indeed be severely burdened by a widespread and wanton disrespect for the truth. Okay? This idea that if it is the case that we're always lying to each other, and I mean, actually, let's take a step back there. We necessarily need not lie to each other all the time, but if it is the case that I, navigate through my reality and sometimes I lie to you, well, that's really important, right? Because the fact that when I lie to you, even if it's a white lie, it means that I'm not telling you the truth. It means that I'm not telling you how things actually are. And that matters. And that very well might start to really kind of encourage and breed this skepticism, but also just kind of this dismantling of social cohesion. And this is where we move to section 7. And I think section 7 is the most interesting chapter in the book. I'll tell you that. Because this is where we've had, the focus on the practicality of truth, the usefulness, that we need to pay close attention, blah, 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 blah. And now we're starting to move on this focus with lying. Okay? All right. Section 7 starts out, well, how do lies injure us? Okay? And we've all been lied to. We've all lied to others. It would be a lie if you claimed that that wasn't true. Is that right? If I were to say, I've never told a lie, well, that's definitely a lie. Because I've told a lie. Okay? And we've all been hurt by lies in various ways. We've all probably hurt others in lies by various ways. Okay? So how do lies injure us? 76-77. The most irreducibly bad thing about lies is they contrive to interfere with and to impair our natural efforts to apprehend the real state of affairs. They are designed to prevent us from being in touch with what is really going on. In telling us the lie, the liar tries to mislead us into believing that facts are other than they actually are. They try to impose their will on us. They aim at inducing us to accept the fabrication of an accurate account of how the world truly is. Insofar as the liar succeeds in this, we acquire a view of the world that is its source in imagination rather than being directly reliably grounded in facts, grounded in relevant facts. Okay? So again, And lying, right? And again, this isn't too, I think, controversial. Because like when we lie, we're undoubtedly deceiving the other person, right? We're undoubtedly deceiving that to who we are undoubtedly deceiving who it is we are lying to, right? But to take it a step further, what we're doing is we're altering reality. When we lie to one another, we are altering reality of the person that we're lying to. Okay? Lies are designed to damage our grasp of reality. So they are intended in a very real way to make us crazy. To the extent that we believe them, our minds are occupied and governed by fictions, fantasies, illusions that have been concocted for us by the liar. What we accept as real in the world that others cannot see, touch, or experience in a direct way. A person who believes a lie is constrained by it, confined by it, captive by it, as we want to relate back to Ishmael. Accordingly, to live in their own world. Thus, the victim of the lie, in the degree of their deprivation of truth, is shut off from the world of common experience and isolated in an illusory realm to which there is no path that others might find or follow. So again, this idea here, and this is challenging, right? Because you can think about pretty dramatic examples of when one has been lied to and when one finds out about the lie. And I think a really good example here is an infidelity. Okay? The idea that either maybe you've been a victim of being in a relationship where your partner or your spouse or whoever it was that you were seeing maybe cheated on you if the parameters of the relationship were such that there was supposed to be the exclusive monogamous parameters. And when one breaks that contract, when one breaks that agreement, right? But in the process has been lying to you about the fact that, oh no, nothing's going on, nothing's happening, I'm committed to you, blah, 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 blah. Well, when you find out about those lies, when you find out in the relational sense that your partner, your spouse, the person that you're seeing, has been lying to you, not only kind of is there dramatic heartbreak, but there's also this feeling of your world just being shattered. Because the world that you have existed in, the reality by which you have been engaging with, was not real. It was not true. And so in that real, very real way, lies can make us crazy. When we discover a lie, it very, very much makes us crazy. Right? Because what we have to do is we have to go back through and put all of these pieces together to figure out what actually was the case, what actually is the case. Right? And that's hard. That's hard, but Frankfurt and how he stays consistent with on bullshit is that even when we're lied to, even as dramatic and as hard as those examples are, especially in matters of infidelity, we eventually can arrive at understanding truth. Okay? We can at least eventually discover what the lies are, how they've damaged us, how they've made us crazy, but we can slowly start to put pieces back together to understand, well, how things really actually are. Okay? So again, I think this chapter 7 is just so rich here. Okay? All right, blah, blah, blah. When one has been lied to, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to continue on. I'm on page 83, and this is where he's quoting this person named Rich, but he says, that is why, as Rich observes, discovering that a friend has lied to us engenders in us a feeling of being a little crazy. The discovery exposes, interestingly, something about ourselves. Something far more disturbing than merely what we have miscalculated or that we have made an error in judgment. It reveals that our own nature is indeed unreliable, having led us to count on someone whom we should have otherwise trusted. It shows us that we cannot realistically and be confidently in our own ability to distinguish truth and falsity, our ability, in other words, to recognize the difference between what is real and what is not. Successfully deceiving a friend implies, needless to say, a fault in the one who tells the lie. So in this way, that also when we recognize that we have been lied to, and we have to put those pieces back together, it also reveals the fact that we ultimately are infallible as well. Okay? All right. So a main takeaway from chapter 7, and again, I highly encourage you to go read this because I think it's just so rich about this focus on lying. But the fact about the matter is that when we are lied to, when we have been lied to, we very well and very clearly, once we discover the lie, we go a little crazy because no matter what, we haven't been told the truth.